Start the day with Orphe. I'm a routine, I get better each day. I conquer my goals, I plan to be great. I plan to be early, you plan to be late. Your bread in the kitchen, my bread in the bank. The secret if you tryna master your fate is start the day with Orphe.
Let's get it. Welcome to Start the Day with Orphe. This is the realest podcast for growth and development. This journey is designed to be a safe space for that growth and development. We're going to grow emotionally, we're going to grow physically, we're going to go spiritually. We are essentially going to build the habits, we're going to build everything we need to level up together. And today is a continuation of our manifesting journey. And we're going to talk about habits, right? We started with the overview in episode 3 about manifesting and what it takes. Then we went to episode 4 and we talked about goals. We drilled deeper into goals. Today is special and we're talking about habits.
Nice.
So I'm here with my brother, Wilber Trivino, brother and co-host. Give it up for Wilber.
Ooh, what's good? Where the claps at?
Yeah.
Thank you, Beef. Appreciate you.
And
what's going on, beautiful people? What's going on, Ant? How you doing?
Man, look, if you can't tell from my face, I'm excited.
I know.
That's how I'm doing.
We hype right now.
I am excited about this, man. I'm so hyped right now, and I'm like running on fumes. I didn't eat anything today, but I'm just full on life.
Full bore.
I am full on everything right now. Because we have a special guest, a practitioner, right? Somebody that is an expert in what we're talking about today, and that's habits. And we have my sister, LeShana Johnson, who is the founder of Be Bold and Courageous LLC, which is a coaching and consulting enterprise, right? I want to say it's not just a company. This is an enterprise.
Oh, can we get a round of applause?
Can we get a round of applause for that?
Yeah.
Understand, this is just not something that she decided to do. This is like a passion and a calling, right? And they offer services in soft skills training along with personal and professional development coaching. But what I want to give the floor to Shayna real quick to just elaborate on that, right? So Shayna, if you could just jump in there, look at Shayna looking good in her office. Look at that. If you could just elaborate on that, man, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about maybe how you even started, how you got the desire, the drive. Where'd it come from?
Man, hey everyone, this is LeShana Johnson. Thank you for just allowing me to be a part of this podcast, Start the Day with Orphe, to my brother Anthony and Wilber. This is going to be a good one, y'all. So a little bit about me. You said something, Anthony. You said, this is my calling. And I heard in my devotional earlier, it was a video and it says, your job is what you get paid to do. Your calling is what you were made to do. And so I was made to coach other people into growing forward, but one step at a time, because I found myself at a place where I've needed coaching. I've always wanted to help others, but how can I help people if I'm not getting that help myself? And so, as I would say, all my life, I've coached people, whether I knew it or not. I was that person where someone can talk to me and I would listen and I would help them break down the big picture when they're feeling overwhelmed or stuck into just something simple so they can grow forward. And so, of course, knowing that at a young age, or kind of hinting at that's what I love to do, I went to school for that. I studied communications. I went to brush up on my skills on presentational speaking and leadership, because I know if I wanted to help more people that I needed to study in those areas to make sure that I'm not just giving someone fluff or something that I think I knew, but just that experience too. And so I was born and raised in Syracuse, New York. What's up? Hey. And attended Syracuse University, got my BS in Communication Rhetorical Studies. And I also, after Syracuse, after leaving, moved to like the DC, Virginia area and was there for just maybe a couple years, but then moved to Savannah, where my husband was finishing school, starting his career, and then to Tampa, where we moved for his career. And so from that time to now, I end up going back to school to get my MBA in healthcare management. So I wanted to know the business side. If I'm going to help people, I don't just want the skills, but I want to know the background information. How do I run a business, right? And the healthcare part, I've always been in healthcare, but now I'm looking at it in a holistic view. So my physical health and well-being, if that's not up to par, that can affect my mental health and my emotional health. So that's how I look at coaching, as the whole person. And even after getting my MBA, I had got my certification in coaching. So just all these different areas to study and learn and grow so I can better serve my clients and other people that I will partner with. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm in Tampa, Florida right now. What's up, Tampa? With two kiddos and my husband. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
That is amazing. That is really is amazing. And this is the last part of our manifesting series, right? And we've been talking about manifesting for the last, since the beginning of the episode, the beginning of the season. But now we're at a point where we've developed goals, right? We have a vision. We understand that our vision is based on our passion and what we're supposed to be doing, right? What we're made to do. And so now we want to dig a little bit deeper. And once we've developed the goals, we need to understand the habits that are going to take to even like start chasing those, right? To start achieving those, start getting at those. Because I think a lot of times we think that we have a goal, we can just go. And I don't think that's true, right? We've talked about this. You can only really go when you know how to go with what you're doing, right? So whether it is getting up, whether it is, staying up late, whether it is putting in that little bit of extra time, studying a little bit more, whatever the habit is that you need to make sure you can achieve that goal, we need to be able to, to like do that and get there, right? And I think Shana, and I want everybody to take out their pens and their pencils, right? Because I'm going to give them their time to do that, because the thing that she's going to talk about are things that people pay a lot of money to hear.
Right.
And so they're getting what I call free game. And so when you get this free game, you better pay attention. Right? You better pay attention. And so go ahead.
And if you're not learning anything, it's because you haven't been listening.
And if you're not learning, that means you're not listening, right? So listen up. Spend this time to really soak in the things she's going to talk about, right? So let's just jump in, right? So let's just talk about it. So the first thing is how should people be really thinking about their daily habits, right? Like understanding that it's important to build those habits, but how do people even think about them, right? To understand that even the habit of like maybe getting up and making your bed, right? Something so simple, but can start off the day in the right way that is going to get you to those goals. What should people be doing?
Yeah. Well, people should do what they feel like they want to do.
That is the most simplest answer.
What they feel like they want to do, right? Because I can tell you, hey, if you do these habits, it will take you to the next level. But if you don't want to do it, if you are not motivated or see the benefit of doing it, that means nothing, right? So they should do what they desire to do, because you have habits, right? But every habit is not the best habit, right? I don't want to put it into good and bad, but if I have a habit of going to sleep every night, I'm a night owl, I'll tell you that. But if I do this every night, say 2 a.m., and I know I want to work out early in the morning, that's going to take away my rest, my health that I need to have the energy to get up. So that may not be the best habit to go to sleep every night. If on the other end, I want to start working on a goal for fitness, for example. But one thing about habits is that starting small, and I know Wilber mentioned it in previous episode, y'all go check it out, about, sticking your toe in it, right? Starting small, because what you don't want to do is set yourself up for failure. And so you want to identify, what habits do I need to help me grow to the next level? What is in alignment? And like you said, bro, like making your bed, what does that do for you? When you come home and you see a made bed, that's like This is my place of peace, my serenity. So making that bed may be that peace for you when you come home. Getting up to stretch your body. That may be another habit. And so it's just finding those things that will put you into that place that you need to be in life, and starting small, one day at a time, and just going back to that safe fitness goal, right? So say someone, they haven't been working out and they're just like, today's the day. I want to start working out. I want to go exercise. I want to see results. And so they're like, boom, I want to start on Monday. And they're like, I'm going to go 5 days a week. I mean, yeah, 5 days a week. Why? If you have not been working out, would you go 5 days a week? Just why? Now, if you said, I want to start working out, but I'm going to aim to go one day a week. Someone may say you won't see the results in one day a week. Like you want to lose the weight, you want to have this physique and get your muscles, but you're starting at your level. And sometimes that habit has to start small so then you can build upon it. You can work and grow. So then you may say, hey, 2 weeks, I did one day a week. I think I'm able to do 2 days a week versus starting very fast, going to 5 days, not keeping up, feeling like a failure when you could have just said, let me go one step at a time. That's going to build a habit. And we don't always look at it like that. I didn't always look at habits like that. I thought it was just like, all right, just go for it. But if I did not have the experience and the knowledge or even the practice of doing it over and over again, and that's one thing about habits, the repetition and consistency. Repetition, do it over and over until it's like second nature for you. And then being consistent. I may miss a day at the gym, but I've been doing it so much that when I do fall off, or if I do fall off, my body's gonna say, hey girl, we gotta get back in there because we're used to doing it. So that repetition and consistency is so important to building those habits and starting small.
So I have a question for you. How
Mhm.
how do you look at habits now as opposed to before you were a life coach?
Mm.
Mhm. Oh, that's good. I believe habits can either they could help you be more successful or less successful. That's how I look at it. And being aware of the habits has opened my eyes to me being intentional about that place I want to go to versus me saying, oh, it'll happen when it'll happen. I hope this happens versus no, you develop this habit and you work on this habit and you keep doing this habit so that it can put you in that direction that you want to go to. So before I didn't look at it that way. I just looked at it as, oh, it's another thing to do. It's something else to add to the plate. But it's no, the little habits make a big difference in your life.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow, wow.
Yeah,
So it's
the reason why and I don't mean to cut
no,
you
go
off.
ahead.
The reason why I asked that, Shayna, is because as you were talking, I was paying attention, but I also couldn't help but think of my own habits.
Mm-hmm.
And like making the bed is something, brushing my teeth, right? Eating 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, right? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I don't think of them as habits. It's just things to do. You see what I'm saying? It's just things that I have to do, or things that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there who don't have like an inventory of their habits. You know, like if you were to ask me what are some of your habits, it'll take me a while to really think about it and be like, all right, you know. So that's why I asked that question, because a lot of us, if not 98% of us, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
we just look, we don't realize the power of habits, and we don't and we it's not it's not at the forefront of our daily lives, right? Where it's like, oh, this is a habit of mine, this is a habit, and it's just like, oh, I'm making my bed.
Right, right. I like it because it's an awareness piece. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of times when we're younger, especially, and you know, that's why the mentorship is so important, right? Because it helps us get over that awareness barrier, right? And so young people tend not to know what it is that they need to do or are aware of the things that they currently do that are hindering them from getting to where they go, where they want to go. Right? A lot of times they just think that it's happenstance or things aren't working out the way they want them to because it's just not supposed to happen, or the universe isn't giving it to them, or however they like to think about it. But I think the awareness that it's because you're not making the affirmative steps to put yourself in that position, right, is like always the base of habits, right? Always the base of this manifesting, creating your habits. If you don't have that awareness piece that we do gain with experience, right? Because we start to realize that a lot of times we were our own worst enemy, and we're doing things that we shouldn't be doing, or doing things that are a hindrance instead of helping. We're able to start really building forward. That's why, they say, what is it that youth is wasted on the young? And it's always like, it's because we're wise, and it's all of the things that we did when we were young that we now know are wrong, that we wish we could tell ourselves back then, but we can't. But mentors are the ones who can do that, right? To help us build the habits to go forward. Right? So I really like that awareness piece. I think about a lot of things that I did when I was younger.
Like what?
I mean, man.
Let's think about it. What was a habit that you had when you were younger that was not conducive to your growth? Or
You know what? Being complacent with my own talent. And I'll tell you what that means.
Yeah.
I didn't think that I needed to work any harder than I already was when I was young, because I could sufficiently do everything I needed to do with minimal effort. Right? And that is like, I feel like I could be on the way to being president of the United States had I like really applied myself when I was young. I never applied myself, right? I never did homework. I never studied. I never did any of that. All I did was go to class, remember everything the teacher said, spit it back out on a test, done.
And you got what, A's, B's?
And I got B plus A minus.
Okay.
What I was like, oh well, if I did that, and I had no one else pushing me to say, hey, you could do better, right? With a little bit of, until I got older, until I got grown, right? Until I got mentors, older mentors. And so that was the thing that I used to do that I no longer do, because I know that talent only gets you a part of the way there. Talent gets you 95% there. But the thing that separates those who get 95% from those who get 100% is that extra work, right? And you can never get to the places that you really want to be unless you're given 100%.
Yeah.
Right.
And how about you, Shayna?
Man, that's a good question. So what I thought about was, and I was just talking to someone about this, my first job was at a car wash in Syracuse.
Shout out Delta Sonic.
I was just actually like meeting with the guy I didn't know. We just had like a lunch meet, and he was just talking about how he was the one who was putting them up when they were starting to come on the scene. And I was like, I used to work there. That was my first job when I was 16. So just reminiscing.
Full House.
And
Not Full House, Full Circle. Sorry.
Yeah. And so Delta Sonic had this set up where like you sell the car wash, right? Then you could spray the cars down. You could be in a detail, the drying, or in the convenience store. So depending on how well you did, depend on your position. So if I could sell someone the best car wash, I am going to be in a booth. I am people facing. If my numbers went down, they may put me to spray the cars. And if we are in the winter, it would be so cold. Like I remember just ice being on the jackets they gave us. I remember my Timbs, and I was just telling him this. I had like purple Timbs. Timbs was everything, Timberland boots. I remember like being soaking wet that the dye ran into my sock. And I was just like, this is the birds. I should be in the booth. But since I didn't sell well, I'm out here spraying cars. But fast forward, so I had to like dry cars where they gave you like below minimum wage because you would get tips when people dry your car. So I'm like, let me dry, let me make sure I'm looking cute so I can get an extra tip, right? I don't know how you look cute at work, but I tried it, okay? And when I would get these tips, I would walk away from like anywhere from like 60, 80, $100 in a few hours from drying cars, tips. Now, what I would do is take that money and go to the mall and buy me sneakers. I was in the Jordan era. And I remember my dad told me, I'm not buying you no more Jordans. I'm not doing this. I'm not getting up in the morning. I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? Why won't you get up at the crack of dawn? But he was just trying to tell me, like, I'm not spending money on shoes you're barely wearing just for status. So that's why I got a job. But I was using the money to buy stuff to make me look good on the outside. I wish I would have saved that money. The habit of spending the money right away, spending it on things that I would not use in the next couple months, and saving that, investing that in something else at that age, I, yes, could have been further along. We're grateful, we're good, but it's just these are some things I would have wished that, hey, if I got this money, at least 50% I put over here versus let me go blow it at the mall. And that's just, being young and immature and not understanding. But when you are aware and you have the people around you saying, hey, look at it this way. Let's frame it this way. You can have both. Maybe you can't get the Jordans every drop, but every other drop, but you're putting your money somewhere that will help you in the future. So the habit of spending that money right when I got it was like, I could have did something else. I had stacks in my room of sneakers that just sat there.
I still do.
So yeah, Anthony still got stacks on stacks. Like, I don't even know what his mom's gonna do with all that when she moves out here.
Oh my god.
So the question that I have and I'm gonna throw out here is, would we be here today?
Uh-huh.
In terms of as a person who we are today, would we be here today if we didn't have those bad habits or less optimal habits in our life and go through that process? Would we be able to be in a position or to give the free game that we give and everything like that, or we would be somewhere completely different?
Right. You know what? Let me jump on that one real quick, and I will say that even though I can identify things that I wish I did differently when I was younger, I would never trade my experiences in for anything, because it is only through my experiences that I am the person I am today, and I like that person.
Yeah.
No
regrets.
Right. No regrets. And so I think, like for me, it's man, like I always talk about, if people, my wife, she asked me if there was anything you could do differently, would you, and I used to say things like, well, I wish that I would have, actually put in more work to go to Cornell Law School, right? Because I had gotten waitlisted and all I needed to do was, a little bit of more work to get in. But why?
Yeah.
Right. Maybe I wouldn't have the same experiences that I have now. Maybe I wouldn't have decided to go back and get an MBA at this point. Maybe I would have been miserable in a law firm.
Definitely would not have met me.
Right. We wouldn't have met. There would be no Start the Day with Orphe. I would maybe be doing great things, but I wouldn't have had a lot of humbling experiences. I wouldn't have met a lot of the mentors that changed my life. I wouldn't have met some of the people that changed my life if not for the things that I had gone through. So yeah. I just wouldn't trade him in. I don't know, Shayna, if there's maybe something that you would change.
No, same here. I am right where I need to be. And from experience, from, bumping my head against the wall to figuring things out the hard way, I had to get life experiences. And so if I would have made decisions differently, that may have put me in a different position right now. But I've learned those things that I could pass on to my kids and could pass on to their kids. And so there is some things that I will help them and save them from, like my parents helped and saved me from, but I believe each generation is supposed to help. But wait, we can't speed past Wilber. You didn't share your habits as a child or younger. You just hit me and Anthony up. I want to know, what were those habits for you?
Habits when I was younger.
Hanging out, smoking.
So I'm trying to think.
It's not that hard.
No.
Stop acting like you don't know. You know.
Feels like it was all good habits. It was
No.
Oh no.
This because I'm trying to find something profound. I'm not trying to find something like on the surface type of thing. But I think one less optimal habit that would always like bite me in the butt, and still to this day sometimes does too. It's like I would let my anger get the best of me, right? And that caused a lot of relationships and friendships to be broken. That caused a lot of rifts with my family, my parents, and how do you call it? I used to be the one and done. You mess up one time, done. You're done. I don't care how long I've known you. I don't care who you are, best friend or not, family member or not, you're done. And then I was fortunate enough to have mentors, but those mentors were like friends who were older than me.
Yeah.
And they were wiser. And they would just be like, think about all the times you've made a mistake. You telling me that people can't make mistakes? It's like, people can make mistakes, but I don't give a shit.
Right.
I don't give a shit. One and done. Don't make a mistake with me. You can make a mistake anywhere else, but not with me. And they're like, you know that, you do you realize how unreasonable you sound?
Right.
And so through years of that, right, now it went from one and done to like 2 strikes. Right? 2 strikes, 3rd strike, done. That's it. But you get 2 warnings, you know? And so I've grown out of that, right? But for me, that was a bad habit that I had. And still it pops its head in, but now I have more thread, right? And more patience and more understanding. And that comes with growth.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's it. I told you. I knew there was something.
Yeah. But I just didn't want to like just be like, oh yeah, I was drinking 40s at age 12. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I wanted to have something like deep.
Right.
You know?
Even though it was true you was drinking 40s.
Yeah, I was drinking
12.
40s when I was 12.
But it's good that
It's New York City, man. Come on. You weren't drinking 40s at 12?
No.
No?
No.
They don't do that up in Syracuse?
I was in the church.
What were you doing in church?
I was in the church.
What bad habits you were doing in church at 12?
What?
I'm asking, if any.
Nothing.
Oh, okay.
Nothing. I was a good kid, man. Like a kid, I was a good. It wasn't, and at 12, no, it wasn't until like 13 or 14.
1 year later. Like,
yeah, because I started feeling myself then.
Uh-huh.
It was like 13 or 14 because the hormones started to really start raging. Then I started to make decisions based on like girls. And that's when everything started going sideways.
Gotcha.
But before that, nah, man, I was a good kid, man. I was in church, playing drums, singing in the choir.
All right.
Listen to my mom. And when she hear this, she'll agree. And so
Biased witness.
I think, so, Shana, just getting a little bit back to, some of the habits and things. One of the habits that is important, and I want people to know that this is an actual habit, right? But it's something that you really have to practice is like positive outlook, optimism, and self-esteem, right? And how those color very much so the habits that you're able to create. Can you help us like outline a little bit about how important it is to have some optimism and how to improve self-esteem when necessary when developing some of those habits?
And to add to that, also, how can one develop self-esteem? Because you said a lot that has to do with habits is self-esteem. Not self-esteem, awareness.
Yeah.
Right? Self-awareness. So how does one develop that if one lacks it?
Yeah, this is good. So, first thing that comes to mind is, how do you see yourself? And how do you talk to yourself? Sometimes we've experienced stuff growing up where someone may have said things that were negative towards us, or they were just placing their low self-esteem or being miserable on us, where we can internalize that. And so it comes from somewhere of like, what are the voices? What are we saying? What tunes are going over and over in our head? And so with the self-esteem, I'll say for me, I grew up in a household where my parents encouraged me where my dream would be way out of this world. Yes, you got this. Okay, like go for it. Despite of what I would come up against, whether it's like being catty with chicks, people who don't really know me or don't know what I was called to do, talking smart about me and whatnot, or just placing their own limitations on me and me second guessing myself of like, who am I? What am I supposed to be doing? I had a stable support saying, Shannon, you could do this. Go for it. Challenge yourself. Go to the next level. And so I think that's very important of like what voices or reinforcements or assurance did you receive growing up? And I know for me that has helped me with my outlook of being positive towards people, right? Like if I'm not being positive toward myself, I can't be positive towards people. I can't give what I don't have, what I haven't experienced or received. And so I try to be mindful of that of, yeah, I've been in circles where I wasn't the nicest person and I had to get checked or run into somebody to realize like, no, that's not how life works. But overall, it's trying to be that person that I will want someone to be for me because that's just what I received. And so with self-esteem is even if you did not have that growing up, someone saying, hey, you can do this. I believe in you. I see you. You know, you can do great things. That's okay. But finding those people around you, finding the help, right? To even confront the self-esteem. Why do I feel like this? Why am I thinking like this? Having that and growing forward and don't let that hold you down. And so different things like for me now to maintain that self-esteem is how I'll tell myself if I get dressed up or I'll do a video for coaching, I'm like, hey girl, I see you. Oh, she's cute. Oh, I like that message. I will work with her. I talk to myself like that. It could be me alone in the room because that is what I believe. That's what I know. And I'm going to say that out loud. I'm speaking life to myself. I'm not speaking, it's one or the other. You're going to speak life or speak death to yourself. I'm speaking life. And then even the thoughts, like in my mind of like, I'll put up stuff around me, whether it's stickers, you're beautiful, whether it's a scripture that speaks to me, you know, be strong and courageous, all of those things that are continuing to grow who I am as a woman. But then also in community, right? So it's important of the people you're around because if my self-esteem is not the best and I'm hanging around people who self-esteem is not the best, they're down in themselves, oh, I look a mess, oh, I'll never succeed. Guess what? That becomes who you are. That's your environment as well. And so I am very intentional about the company I keep, the people that I'm around. And so I share that for the person who may say, like, I just don't feel good about myself. What are your environments that you're in? If you're not speaking well to yourself, who are the people talking in your life or speaking in your life? What are they saying? How are they viewing their own selves? So that community is important. And then getting the help, therapy, coaching, because we can't do life alone. Like I do not believe it at all. Like look at you two on this podcast, right? Could Anthony do this podcast alone? Could Wilber do this podcast alone? Absolutely. But would it be the most impactful, purposeful podcast together? Yes, it would be. And so I recognize that in different areas of my life of you got to do life, getting help from others, being in circles and places where people have more experience than you that know more. Like I have a therapist. Why? Because I need to reframe some things. I don't have it all together. I have a coach, right? I'm a coach, but I have a coach. And so it's the self-esteem, you don't have to do the work by yourself because if we live up here a lot in our head, thinking this is, you know, what I did. I made a mistake when I was this age. Oh, I remember I failed here. Like it's a lot, but it's you need someone that could speak life to say, okay, you're not your past, you're not your failures, you're not what you believe is a shortcoming. Like there is more for that. And so just being intentional of like getting the help if you find yourself in that place of like my self-esteem is low, you can go up from there. You can. Do you believe you can go up? Now, being around those spaces and places and getting the help, it depends on the person as well, because therapy may not be for the person right now. Maybe they just need to find yourself a good community of trusted friends, or maybe it is therapy or coaching. So definitely getting the help, but recognizing that you need someone to help you to come out those places that seems dark at times.
Right, right. And I think we all know people who have the potential to be the brightest stars, but tend to dim their own lights.
Right.
Or
just get in their own way subconsciously.
Right. And like I tell my mentees all the time, don't you ever dim your light because the world will try to dim it for you, right? They'll always try to do it. So don't you ever dim your light. You always turn that shit up,
Right.
right? Um, but it's not easy to always have those conversations with people, right? Especially just from a place of love, especially when you believe in them so much. So, what is like the best way to even broach, right, that conversation? How do you even approach them to say, I think maybe you should look into a life coach without coming off
Right.
as offensive, right? Because some people think
Or
that,
insensitive.
or insensitive, right? Think that you're trying to either like maybe control their lives, right? Whether it's a friend or a loved one, or that you're trying, or you don't think that they're good enough, or in this thing. But it's like, no, I think that you are greater than your space.
Right. It's getting that message across clearly.
Right.
Because I said this a lot in 2020 and 21 is I'm saying things as clearly as I can, and I know how to. And I can't get any more clear than that, but I can't control how you receive that. You know what I'm saying? So I tell people all the time, you take me at my word literally. I'm not saying, you don't have to read in between the lines with me. I'll tell you what's up when it's up, and I'll tell you what's down when it's down.
Right.
So take me at my word. That's it. That's all you got to do. You don't got to read in between the lines, but I can't control them not doing that.
Right.
So then it's like if someone can come from a place of love all day and say, loving words and a loving message,
Right.
that person can still, with all their baggage and lenses, right, and their experiences and the way they feel emotionally, they'll still be like, oh, this motherfucker thinks I ain't shit. Right? No, seriously. They can
Right.
literally
That is true.
take that message as that. And so it's like, how do we avoid that, right? Like that's right.
How do you avoid it? How, if I had somebody right now that I would like, look, I think that you would be the perfect client to meet with, person to meet with Shayna. Right? Because I think that the message that she has and what she's teaching is great for your life. How do you say that without it being like
without them taking it the wrong way?
Right. Like, well, how if I wanted to just send somebody away, how would I even start that conversation?
Yeah. So a person has to want to change and to grow, right? So on your end, you see this person, you're just like, don't dim your light, or I'm giving you like this love, this positivity, and you're not receiving it. Just because you can see, hey, if they did speak to someone or have help, that will benefit them, they may not see the benefit and may not be ready for it. And so it's kind of hard to avoid when people, they live their lives the way they want to. But I believe there's a point in life where you can wake up and say, hey, I do want to change. So the biggest thing is listening to what that person is saying, right? So are they the person that's continuing to, you know, make an excuse or just talk about how life isn't good? They just can't catch a break, and they're just fixated on the problem, and they just like that's what they do. They want to stay in the place. Or the person was just like, man, I I know there's something more. I want to work on this. Like I know it's another level. I may need the help. Just listening to that person and say, okay, now they may be open to receive it. Because I've had people that thought coaching is for them. Hey, I want to be a client, but then when it came down to it, they weren't ready to do the work. They weren't ready to grow, and so all day, every day, I could say, I could see it plain in sight. This will help you, but they have to accept that for self. So just listening to where they're at, are they open for it? Go ahead.
And so sorry to cut you off.
Okay.
And so for the person who is always complaining or fixated on a problem and does nothing about it, like what are we supposed to be listening for in that respect?
Well, just being there for them because they don't necessarily say they want to fix it. Like you have people that are like problem aware. They know they got problems. But you have people that are solution aware too, where they may not feel like they have the problem. And so it just I think the support is the biggest thing. Like you being a support for that person to say, hey, have you considered this? Or I know a person who helps you to get really clear and focused on your next step forward, or if you wanted to go grow personally, but you find yourself just hitting a block, hitting a wall. Like I have someone, they're really good at this. Just seeing how they receive that, just throwing that out there. Like, hey, I have a friend that you may be interested in talking to that can help you. But based off of that conversation, you can see like, are they, for me, I just talking with people over time, I can tell when someone is not as open and ready and willing. Versus the person who's just like, yes, sign me up. Like, how do I do this? I've been looking for this, and this is an answer to what I've been looking for. So it's just the listening to them, and maybe you're just the person who keeps telling them over and over, like, you got this. Like, you're going to do great things. Like maybe you're just that voice until it hits them, until it clicks for them that, oh, I can be growing more. I need the help. This is what I need that I don't have. Maybe this person could put me in contact with it because they've been saying it. It's the repetition.
Right.
So you can't make someone change or see. Sometimes people don't see what's right in front of them. But it's just again the mindset. So if you have that conversation, hey, I have someone you can talk with or who will really, I think they'll really help you. Here's the information. Or let me put you in contact with them. Let's do a phone call, a Zoom, or a text message and just see how open they're at. And that will tell you like they're ready to do something about it. If not, it's just kind of accepting people for where they're at. I had to realize that my expectation for people is not their expectation for themselves. And recognizing that my expectation for myself is already high. So I would place that on other people and had to realize that's not everybody's reality in life and to be okay with that. So I had to personally do therapy, recognize that of yeah, it's okay to have standards and expectations, but to place that on someone else where that's just who they are.
Right.
And so to your point on being a support, right? If someone is fixated on a problem and they're talking about the same problem and just talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, doesn't it come, and I say this generally to get both of your point of views, doesn't it get to a point where you're just like, how much more can we discuss this problem, or I can hear about this? Like it's so repetitive that now it's starting to become annoying, right? Because there's obviously a solution to the problem. You don't want to do anything about it, but you want to be fixated on the problem. And it's like, when is enough, if ever at all?
Wow. So that's interesting that you say that, because I think that is a habit in and of itself. You know,
Right.
a lot of people have the habit of just like serial. How do I phrase this? It's
Serial
complaining.
Yeah.
And then like some are solution oriented, and it usually is the dichotomy between those two, right? It's funny because usually in a relationship, whether it's a friendship or whether it's even marriage or boyfriend, girlfriend, that there's usually somebody who's solution oriented, and then there's usually somebody who's the opposite. And most of the issues that happen are like in the valley between them. And so I think that really you just have to be willing to ask the questions about, well, are you looking for a solution to this, or is this something that you just want me and yourself to be aware of? And I think that if you ask that question, that it dispels a lot of the issues that can happen in those, because solution oriented people are just trying to explain what you should do so that you don't have that problem anymore. And like serial complainers sometimes don't really want the solution. They just want to be heard. And so you have to give them the space to just be heard.
No, I get that if it happens once, twice, 3 times. But if it's the 20th time, 30th time, I feel like that person's been heard enough.
But yeah,
personally speaking, and so that's why I would like to get Shayna's point of view on that, right? Because am I wrong in that opinion, right? Or do I continue hearing to the 100th time if necessary, right? I don't know.
So I would have to ask for an example. So is this someone in your life that is repetitive with the same issue, or there's always an issue?
There's like I've come across many people like that, yeah, and so some of them are close friends, others are acquaintances and everything like that, and so, but let's just say for like a close friend who's like that, right? And I've heard, obviously this is a hypothetical, but I've heard the issue over and over and over and over and over and over again to the point that I know what's coming next. You know, in terms of like the story outline. Do what? When is enough enough, if ever?
Yeah.
Or do we just continue sitting there and being that support that they need endlessly?
I think what Anthony just brought up too is just like asking that person of like, and just having a forward conversation at that point. I know. So for me, like, I have to protect my space and energy. And sometimes those things could be draining, right? And I have to be mindful of that because I know when I pour out and from business standpoint to coaching, or I am giving time to my family, that is valuable. Our time is very valuable, right? We don't get it back. And if there is someone that is like, this is your track, it's always a complaining. So there's a part of me that is, I'm gonna shift the atmosphere. If you come around me, we're not talking about stuff that's negative. Like we're gonna talk realistic stuff, but I'm gonna be on the up and up. When I see you, hey, how you doing? Exclamation point and the text message emojis. That's just who I am, and so that's when we're with each other. This is what you're going to get. But I can't be in situations that is going to be draining me. Now, there's people that I'm called to help, and I'll be mindful and listen. But those forward conversations, I think that's just huge. Of not being managing the fixer. I used to be the person of if I heard something, I got to fix it. I got to give my suggestion. I got to give my opinion, but they're not looking for that. They're maybe just wanting to talk and keep talking about it. So learning to one, be quiet about it, but also be mindful of if this is a conversation that's going to happen every time, is this the place that I need to be? Is this the time that I need to spend with that person? But just also if that is a friend of having a conversation of, hey, I recognize that this seems to be an ongoing issue. I'm just concerned, like, how is that, like, is that affecting you, your health? I hate to see you going through the same thing over and over. How can I best help you in this situation? Just showing the concern, so you're not hearing that story on repeat. And it's just like, here we go again. All right, let me set my clock for 22 minutes. Like, no, nobody wants to waste their time. I don't. So it's just the concern part of just like, I'm hearing this, or how has that been? Have you gotten any like results back? Is it going in the right direction? Kind of getting ahead of it, of trying to make it on the up and up versus staying in the same place. Like we're stuck at that point.
Right.
We're stuck on this right here. We're fixated on this. So as a friend, I could say, all right, so well, what's the next step? How does that's the coach in me. The coach is like, hey, so what would be the next step from here? Like, okay, that's great. I can't wait to hear more about it. Like, I know you're going to do great, but not going too far in a coaching session where they're just like, man, I'm in the hot seat. So as a friend, I'm concerned. I'll ask you questions about it, and I'll even brainstorm with you. I'm giving you all of that. But if it's just an associate or a person that's just like this is it, like this is the noise you bring, I just can't. I cannot. This isn't for me. It's not.
Right.
And for me too.
I'm gonna pray for you. I am, because I know I need prayer too. But I know this is just not it's draining me. And if anything, you're distracting me and taking the time that I could be putting elsewhere and that I could be serving other places. And so I think it's just depending on that relationship. Like, am I wasting time, or is it something I just need to have that conversation with that person?
Right, and it's funny because I think a lot of it has to do with people not recognizing the habit, right? The bad habit, especially, and it's like clockwork. Here we go again, here we go again, and I'm interested to know, like, with your clients, how do you help them recognize, like, these are specific habits that you have that are hindering you or helping you from reaching those goals that we are talking about, right? Because it might be the same issue that you say, oh, I want to do XYZ, but ooh, that person keeps getting in my way, or ooh, that, whatever it is gets in my way. But you can identify as a coach or as a friend, which are the habits that are stopping you from actually getting to where you want to go, right? How do you help them, like, identify those actual habits that are right for your goals?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a couple ways depending on the client. So you have some clients that they're like, give it to me straight, straight. Like, I want you to give me the feedback. Like, this is, don't sugarcoat it for me. And so for those clients, it's okay. This is what I heard you say, but it does not line up to what you're doing.
Right.
And so it's the more of the challenge. Coaching can be challenging at times, but that challenge is going to push you outside of your thinking and your comfort zone to get the results that you said you want. So if you hire me as your coach, you're not just hiring me to go like this. Yay, everything you do, good job. Oh, it's okay. You can give a little bit of effort. Like, think about coaches like football coaches, right? Coaches are not hired just to like patty cake. Like, they're going to call out some things. They're going to say, okay, this is where we can improve. This is the game plan. You need an action plan. So coaching starts off with like, let's get clear where you're at, and then let's set an action plan and put those pieces in motion. So you may have one client that they can just take the straight talking and just calling out. But then you may have some clients where they're more of, I'm not ready for you to just call it out right here and there. And it goes with the relationship, working with the client over time so they can trust me as their coach and I can get to learn them and their style as well. But for those people, I am mindful of it. Like, I don't want someone, and think about it. Would you want someone like calling out those habits? Like, you know what, Wilbur, when you do this action, this is going to end negatively. Like, Anthony, every time you do this, this is going to result in that. Like, I don't want someone pointing a finger at me, but it's really just being mindful of how that person is receiving it. They know they're working with me to go to the next level, but now it's okay. We have an action plan. You said you wanted to get here. Okay. Now you're focusing and we're going around the same circle. Is that in alignment to get you here? And so the biggest thing is bringing that person back to the focus. What is your target?
Right.
What is the main goal? Because that I'm going to bring you back to here. You may veer off and go, okay, well, in this, or I've had clients where they may say, well, the coworker and they did this, and okay, let's talk about you. You
Right.
can't control the coworker. You
That's
can't
true.
control that scenario, but let's focus on you. How are you doing? Because you don't want to waste your time focusing or worrying about the next person when you can just say, all right, this is the next step I need to. That person is not that barrier. Yeah, people, they may pose as obstacles and barriers, but you work on you. And so the biggest thing is just bringing it back to center of, we have that vision, that action plan, that goal. Now I'm going to help you to keep going in that direction versus going to the left and right. So I would say the biggest thing is just keeping that person focused on what they said they wanted to focus on, that accountability.
Wow, 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 wow. I think that, oh my gosh, is like the perfect segue, but also the perfect, um, I think, like, outline of what we've been talking about all season, right? That first and foremost, you have to be able to master yourself before you try to master the outside world. And a lot of times we get caught up in what the outside world is doing to us instead of what we are doing to affect the outside world. And so like wow. That's all I can say is like that point that you made, right, is you can only be responsible for yourself and your own actions, right? Mastering oneself is a large part of manifesting, is a large part of habits, because when you create habits, you're mastering the things that you're doing to the outside world, the things that you're doing that affect you internally. That essentially is at the core what a habit is. A habit is I am responsible for the action that I am taking and the repercussions that it has on myself and my environment.
Yeah.
Those are what habits are. And like oh my gosh, that was Shayna. Let me. I hope, man. Please, I really, I wish that. I hope they wrote it down because I know I've been taking notes. Right.
So, Shayna, from your perspective and your expertise, how does someone develop a new habit effectively? And I understand that it goes with the personality, right? It all depends on what kind of personality they have, right? If you have a person who wants to receive things straight, no sugarcoat, right? There's a different approach for every, or I'm assuming there's a different approach for every kind of personality out there. I don't know if that's true.
Right. And if I can just jump in right there, if you could just like give us like your top 3 tips, like these are the steps that you should take to develop that goal, right? Because I really want us to be able to tie it in a knot. I want us to really put a bow on it here, right? And so if you could tell us what are your top 3 like steps, this is what you should affirmatively do in order to create the habits you need. What would those be?
So number one is know what you want. I don't want to say know what you want to do because sometimes you don't know it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I talk about, like the very foundation of like goals and habits is identifying like what you really want to do. And I do that in tools and exercises. So I host different workshops, virtual workshops online. And then with my clients, the very first thing is having a vision for your life, right? So you think about any company out there, even say McDonald's, the NFL. If you check, they have a mission and value or a mission and vision for what they want or who they are as a business, the people they serve, and then like what they project. So having a vision and mission for yourself, for your life, like identify that. And sometimes you need someone to help you. As a coach, that's what I do. That's the very first step. We're having that vision. And so the vision is not just like, okay, Wilber, where do you see yourself in 12 months? Where do you see yourself in 6 months? That's great, but we're going to break it down. And so when you think about your life as a whole, like for me, I am not just a coach. I am a mom. I am a wife. I am a volunteer. I'm a friend. We can go down. So you think about the different roles in your life. Just think about it as a circle. And you break the circle up into different pies, like a pizza slice, right? And so we have the professional person. That's one slice. You have the person who has finances, so the money part. The person who is a friend or family member, your relationships, your social life, that's another piece, your spiritual and faith walk. So there's these different pieces that make up you because you're not just one person, multifaceted, right? And now when we're looking at this, it's on a scale, I use numbers, let's assess on a scale of 1 to 10. How satisfied are you in your relationships with your friends and family? Someone may say, I'm 5. Okay, let's break that down. Why 5? Well, I've had, friends that I've just, Wilbur, like an example, you said, like, I used to be the person that was one and done. And I see like how that's broken up relationships. Okay, you said you're a 5. Okay, where do you want to see yourself? I want to see myself in healthy relationships, where we hang out with each other. It's no bad blood. We're not arguing. Okay, now you're breaking it down. Now let's go to another area. How satisfied are you in your career, your business? Okay, why? And so that's the biggest thing is like I call this, it's the wheel of life. It's not mine, but it's the wheel of life. And you're just assessing where you are at, right, in your life. And then with those different areas, and I think it's broken down to about 8, I always tell my clients, let's pick your top 3. Your top 3 areas you want to focus on. If we look at the different numbers, you may be an 8 here, or 2 there, or 7 here. But what are your top 3 areas that are really calling your attention now that we've talked through it? Okay, it's my career, my family, and my health and wellness. Okay, so now that we have your top 3 areas, because not that you can't work on the other areas, um, but those other areas may be able to just be where they're at. You don't need to put that much time and attention and awareness to it because you have a flow to it. But these are the areas that are really either hindering you from growing or holding you back in areas that you know you want to go forward in. And so just breaking it down to say, okay, these are my top 3 areas. Okay. So let's say health and wellness. What vision do you have for yourself? And I do this actually with my family. Like I don't just talk it, but we wrote, this is the first year they joined me because I'm like, y'all need to do this. They're like, why? I don't need
Yeah.
to.
They must hate you. Like, oh.
You wanna coach us? We don't need you as a coach. I'm like, okay, but
You need me the most.
right. Come on. This is the house. No. So I honestly, my oldest, who's 11, and my husband, they did it the first time this year. And so vision boards, y'all have heard of vision boards, right? And so I've done those over the years and they're great. You know, you look at them, you put the words and everything. But writing it down and making it plain, like, what does that look like? Like, I could see the picture, you know, you may be more visual, but writing it down so then you can even say, what's the next action step? So, what is that vision? In my health and wellness, I want to eat food that will fuel my body. You know, not necessarily I want to be skinny. I want to only be a vegetarian. No, I want food that will fuel my body, that will help me you know, just heal my body if I'm not feeling well. I don't want to eat junk food. I want to work out so and so times a day. The health and wellness could be therapy. I want a mental health. I want to get a therapist. So a vision of what can you see? And you're not starting from birth. You're starting from where you're at. Like, what do you see? What do you want to see in that area? And then after breaking that down, it's okay, now let's put a goal into place. And so with coaching, we talk about SMART goals, and SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time based. And just to break that down is now you're being specific. Let's say we break that health and wellness down a little bit more to eating those nutrient dense food. Okay. So I want to eat nutrient dense food. That's specific. Okay. How do we measure this? I'm going to have so and so healthy meals a day, or I'm going to go grocery shopping and write out a list each week that contains these type of ingredients on there. Right. Okay, is this achievable? Or is this like some out of the park type of goal? Is it relevant to your life and where you want to go? And then time bound, like how long will it take you for you to get into this rhythm and habit? Because you have different type of goals, right? So you have short-term goals, long-term goals, and life goals. There are some goals that I'll continue to do for my health and well-being. I get up, I go exercise, not every day, about 3-4 times out the week. I'll get up at 5, something close to 6, because I know that's a life goal. That's something I want to continue. But you may have a shorter goal for that to get into that rhythm. And so the biggest thing is breaking that goal down, but putting it into a SMART goal. And then there's another part to the SMART goal, is smarter goal, ER. And so the E is to evaluate, and then the R is to readjust. So you have this goal, but sometimes that don't always go as planned. So you need to have that consistency and say, hey, every week I'm going to check in on my goal. I'm going to evaluate this goal. And then I'm going to see if I need to readjust this goal, because that's not in alignment, or it's not going to be something that I can sustain right now. And so just breaking it down into goals. And for some people, writing it down may be helpful. I know you mentioned that, Anthony, and a different episode about just how you have to like write it out, you know, and there's things that I have to literally take a note, write it out. And then there's some people that can say, all right, I got it in here. I'm going to be meeting with my coach or my accountability group or my community And that's how I'm going to keep up with this goal, but also making sure I'm tracking my progress, because it may not feel like I'm doing it, but I am further along than I was last week. And so that's a huge thing. It's just like the big picture, to break it down into action steps so you can get where you want to go and live that life you want to. Not a perfect life. There's going to be hiccups and things that you did not plan for, but you're just saying, I'm going to set this vision and mission and work towards it. And there's a couple of books too that I read. It's the mindset too, shifting your mindset. And my top two books that I read, one was Atomic Habits by James Clear. That's a very good read as well. So I like to write in books and highlight, but there's times I'm just going to go and I listen to audio. You know, you don't have to do it overnight. It takes me a little bit longer to read books because I got every other thing else I'm doing and kiddos. So, but just having like putting yourself in different places and spaces, whether it's reading in books or communities, that's going to push you to grow and to change your mindset and shift it. Another good book is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. And so these are things where if you're just like, where do I start? Or I want some more information on it, of just people who have experience and study and knowledge on that as well.
Right. Oh my gosh. That was
the floodgates open.
That was amazing.
From Be Bold.
That was amazing. Shayna, thank you so much for spending this time with us. Right? Thank you so much. Let me get a round of applause.
Yes.
Give her a round of applause. Right. Thank you so much for spending this time, for sharing your knowledge, for sharing your expertise with the Start the Day with Orphe folks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's very interesting.
Right.
You know, like I've seen life coaches be promoted, but I never knew what is it that they exactly do, or how they do what they do, how they provide that service. So thank you for that insight today.
Right. And tell the people how they can contact you should they want your services, and all your information would also be in the show notes. So just remember that. No matter where you're viewing it, whether you're on YouTube or any of your podcast platforms, all of our information will be there too. But just tell them how they can get in touch with you.
But before you do, I'm just gonna say this. Talking about ER, I'm gonna evaluate my budget and readjust my budget to see if I hire Shayna to be my life coach.
Oh, all right. That's what I'm talking about. That's connections.
She may be like, you know what? Like after a couple of sessions, like, you know what? Take your money back, man. I don't want to deal with you.
I don't want to deal with you. This is not a good fit. This is not a good no.
You know, well, you need more than a life coach, my brother. You need more than.
I got some recommendations. No. Well, and I do. So I offer for people who are saying, hey, I want to see if coaching is a fit for me. I do offer complimentary discovery calls. And that's a place where I'm not just saying, yeah, give me your money, I want to coach you. No, coaching is not for everyone. And so, and I may not be the coach for everyone. There are different types of coaches, and they specialize in different areas. So my focus is personal development, professional development, which normally ties into it. It can be separate. But I'm a vision coach. I help people see and recognize the vision and bring it to life. And so with that, I do the discovery call where we are talking. You can ask questions, but I ask those questions to really see where someone is at on their journey and if they're ready, and if this is the coaching for them. But where can you find me? Yes. A few places. So I'll start with my website. It's BeBoldAndCourageous.com. That's where you can just get a brief overview of who I am, what I do. You can contact me on there. You have LinkedIn. I am LeShana Johnson, LeShana Johnson. And I also am building the Be Bold and Courageous one. So LinkedIn has like a business version. So I also have my business on there as well, Be Bold and Courageous. IG, same, Be Bold and Courageous all across the board. And as well as Facebook, LeShana Johnson or Be Bold and Courageous. So it's my name or the business. And so you can definitely find me, send me a message, my email, my full name, LeShana Johnson with the number 1 at gmail.com for questions. But yeah, this journey is a great one. I do one-to-one coaching, but I also host workshops. And in the later part of this year, because it's all about growth and evolving. I'm all about the growth and evolving, and I have a vision for the business. But later this year, I will be focusing more on partnering with organizations to come in and do different trainings to boost employee morale and to help with that personal development and professional development for their employees as well, who's like, I feel stuck. I don't know. I don't want to grow to the next level. I don't have goals. And I will be that point person. So that's the next level and credential that I'm working on as well. So that's who I am in a nutshell, where you can find me.
Awesome,
Oh my
awesome.
gosh. Well,
And just so you know, I already started following you. So
Yeah, I'll follow back.
thank you.
all right.
Started from yesterday.
Oh
I was
my
like,
gosh, this was such a great conversation.
Yes.
Wilber and
Yes.
Shane, a great conversation. I'm glad that we could collaborate on this. I am so thankful for everyone. Thankful for you, and like always, I always just want to leave our viewers with one thing, and that is we love you. Let's get the day started.